My name is Will Cord and I'm the host of Ready, Set, Renovate. Our podcast is produced in the upstate of South Carolina where I happen to live and our business, Daniel Builders, is located. Ready, Set, Renovate is dedicated to making home renovations a delightful and drama-free process. Drama is fun when it's on HGTV, but not so much fun when your own home is at stake. We discuss real-life home renovations and all they entail while equipping you to edit out the renovation craziness. Along the way, we pack in some inspiration for your own home. On this episode, we're talking to two folks, Adam Proehl as well as Daniel Jachens. Adam owns Foothills Carpet Care, and he's talking about mold remediation. And Daniel Jachens is the co-owner of Daniel Builders. He's talking about how mold impacted their family when they discovered it in their own home. You'll want to stick around and hear his story. So let's get to it. Adam, thank you for joining me today to talk about mold. It's a serious issue for some people, very serious, and you meet a real need that people have, and that's mold remediation. Tell us a little bit about your business model. I know you're teamed up with your wife, Samantha. Yeah. Tell us about the services you offer and how you guys got started.
Absolutely. So I'll give you a real brief history. So I started the company back in 2008, and originally I just did carpet cleaning, and then as I was going, I realized that a lot of the carpet cleaning customers had water damage that they wanted us to take care of, so we started doing water damage. And typically we were able to solve the problems before they turned into mold, so it was much later in the business before we started actually doing mold remediation. But about 5 years into the business, about 12 years ago, Samantha started working with me, and she's really where the business started upgrading.
And she really seems to have a lot of knowledge on the mold side, and you do a lot on the encapsulation side, so y'all complement each other really well.
Yep. So she's the brains of the operation. She just has me do the hard stuff. She doesn't like to get in crawl spaces until they're cleaned up.
Yeah. What area do you service? You're based out of Greenville?
So everything from Anderson and Easley to Spartanburg to Travelers Rest to Gray Court and Fountain Inn, that kind of area.
Hurricane Helene, I want to talk a little bit about that. That has significantly impacted our area. It happened about a year ago. And the mold that triggered, having houses, roofs ripped off, tons of moisture. Talk a little bit about the impact that's had that you've seen on your business as well as just the run-of-the-mill homeowner.
While there were trees down, we tried to get out of our subdivision 3 different ways, and we were blocked off. We had a call for an emergency right that same day, and we kept trying to go out, and we were blocked, and then we kept going back, and we finally found a way out of out of the subdivision where our shop is at. And then when we got to the home, we started our extraction process of getting all the water out, which is normal. But then pretty quickly we realized this is not going to be a normal water damage remediation because there's no power. In a typical situation, we come in with water damage and we extract the water, and then we set up dehumidifiers and fans and equipment to dry the house out. And at that point, we didn't know how long the power was going to take to get back turned on, but it ended up being over a week for most of our homeowners. We ended up having to change our process. We actually had to tear out the materials to where normally you would be able to dry them and save the materials, but if there's no power, then you would remove
There's no remediation happening.
There's no remediation. So you have to remove the carpet, remove the padding so that it doesn't start to turn into mold. You have to cut the drywall out so it doesn't, even though it normally could be salvaged, just because there was no way to get it dry.
Because the power wasn't there to do it.
Yeah, the power wasn't there.
What sort of projects did you encounter after Helene? Was it pretty much entirely remediation, where you're dealing with water damage throughout the home?
The groundwater was a major issue. We did several garages and their houses. The water came in through the sliding glass doors. We dealt with that a lot at the very beginning. After the initial cleanup, we did a lot of inspections for people who were trying to diagnose with the insurance companies, like what what needed to be done still. And then after a few weeks, it became more mold testing. We did a lot of second opinions. Sometimes, especially in the mold arena, some companies will almost try to scare the customers into doing large projects. And sometimes the large projects may be needed, but they may not always be needed. So we're happy to give a second opinion.
What was the time frame for you before things returned back to normal?
It took at least a couple months. Even after everything, all the initial phases were done, we had so many calls for inspections and second opinions and water damage for insurance companies. Many homeowners are waiting for the insurance companies to process their claim and give them approval before they start. And sometimes that can delay the process and cause mold. If the insurance company takes a long time to approve the claim, then that itself can turn it into mold later.
So time is a very serious factor in all of this. And it's really, really interesting what you just pointed out. Because of the delay, mold had a chance to actually grow and develop and become worse.
Yeah.
What causes mold to actually form?
Most of the time it's caused by a combination of bad ventilation and moisture. For mold to grow, it has to have a steady source of water. For instance, if you spill water in your hardwood floors and it goes down, eventually that will dry.
Yeah.
But if you have a steady leak, then that's not ever going to dry because it's constantly dripping, and that's the type of mold that can be more dangerous. So there's a lot of different things that can cause that. Water leaks are probably the most common cause. Storm damage, sewage backups, and just high humidity in general.
And that last category is why you would see a lot of mold in a crawl space, I guess, is due to the humidity.
Yeah, if a crawl space doesn't have adequate vents, then the humidity just naturally will grow in it, especially in summertime in South Carolina.
What are some practical steps homeowners can take to prevent mold in high moisture areas like bathrooms, basements, and crawl spaces? What's the earliest stage you can catch it at?
Paying attention to any warning signs and to keep an eye on the appliances like the refrigerators. If you notice that there's a small amount of water on the floor, there's probably a source for that. So making sure that if the ice maker behind the refrigerator is leaking, to catch that as early as possible. Noticing the odors. So if there's a musty, earthy odor, you can see small discoloration spots. If there's a high humidity in a bathroom, there might be spots on the ceiling. Trying to pay attention to those warning signs before they get to be too problematic. In crawl spaces, having a vapor barrier is very important because that keeps the moisture from coming up from the ground. Checking the crawl spaces every few months. Just if you have a moisture barrier, then even climbing in with a flashlight just to make sure that there's nothing dripping or anything like that. Ventilation is probably the most important thing for inside the house, bathrooms, and then. In basements and crawl spaces, it's a matter of keeping the humidity level where it's supposed to be. Water control is important, like if there's water coming in under the foundation or if there's water coming in through the basement, that can be something that can be repaired so that it doesn't cause issues. And then drainage, if you have to have a French drain or something like that put in sometimes.
For the viewer out there, walk them through what the process of remediation looks like.
Absolutely. First of all is inspection and assessment. That would be when the testing is done, air sampling and sometimes surface sampling. Air sampling is probably the most common and most important one, but that'll take a baseline level. They'll take an inside and an outside air sample, and then that'll tell you where the levels are before you start. It may take a couple days for the testing to come back to see if there is an actual problem. If you're sure that there's an issue, then you still would want to get the mold testing done, but you may not actually have to wait for the testing to come back to start. The second step is containment. So you don't want to cross-contaminate the area. So whatever the affected area is would be put up with plastic and taped off. That can take maybe a day. And then after the containment is done, all of the materials that are easy to be removed will be removed. Baseboards, drywall on the walls or drywall on the ceiling. That has to be removed so that you can expose the framing in the areas that aren't so easy to replace. And those areas would be treated with chemical to kill the microbial growth. And then after that, the cleaning process will be done. So sometimes the materials may actually need to be mechanically scrubbed to remove any mold. And after all of the cleaning is done, then would be when the drying and dehumidifying process would be. Then after you do all the remediation, all the work, all the tear out, all the put back and everything, then you do clearance testing, which is to check the levels after everything's done to make sure they're all in the proper ranges.
And you can do those tests?
Yeah, we use a inspection company, third party that we send off the initial testing and then the clearance testing from. Yeah.
And they're testing just general air quality.
Correct. So there's two different major types that get sent off to laboratories. There's the air testing, take a sample of the air, then that goes off to a laboratory and they'll count the spores of each different type of mold in the air sampling test. There's also surface testing. So like if you have an area that you can see the mold growing on drywall or something, you just take a sample and then send that off to the laboratory and that'll tell you exactly which type of mold. Because if you do the air sample test, it'll tell you what the composition of the air is, but it's not going to tell you what this particular spot, which type of mold it is.
What kind of molds are the serious kind that people really need to focus on getting out of their house?
Probably the most serious one is Stachybotrys, which is commonly referred to as black mold.
What is an acceptable level of mold based on test results?
Mold is completely natural. It's not something to be scared of. We have to be careful if there's a water leak or a source that's going to cause a constant steady stream of moisture. That causes the Stachybotrys, the more dangerous type of mold. But we don't want to be scared of it, and also it's natural for there to be some microbial growth, some mold in your crawl space. Just having a few little spores doesn't mean that you have a real dangerous crawl space. Every house varies depending on the time of year, depending on the type of construction, but that's the reason for taking the baseline tests at the beginning and also for taking the exterior, the outside range, so that they can compare the two and make sure that there's less microbial growth inside than there is outside. It's also important with the temperature. Like if it's raining, then that'll throw off sometimes you have to even make sure that the testing's done on a clear day. A company that does testing frequently will be able to tell if your results are within safe ranges, but there's not like one level.
Well, it sounds like there's a couple different factors. You mentioned like the weather, the type of house, how old the house is, the type of mold you're looking at.
Yeah.
What is the damage that mold can do to you physically, to your health?
They can do a lot of different things, especially the Stachybotrys, the toxic mold and the mold spores. It can range anywhere from like a minor allergic reaction. You see that a lot of times, like if there's white spots on the walls, that can irritate people's sinuses and their nose and cause itchy eyes. With people that are vulnerable to it, young children or older people or people with respiratory conditions. A serious enough problem can affect anybody, but those are the typical people that have to be especially careful.
Tell us about some of the more severe cases you've come across.
A lot of times the most severe cases are where people never get in their crawl space and check. Even if you're not comfortable getting in your crawl spaces, have somebody check your crawl space every few months to make sure that there's not a leak. It can cause a major issue. Then the entire crawl space can be damaged because of high humidity and high moisture that's coming from the leak.
So you would recommend somebody troubleshooting their whole house, kind of like taking their car in for a checkup or tune-up. You would do that with your house every so often, every few months? Especially
with crawl spaces, it's one of the things that tends to get forgot about. Like in a basement, people go down into their basement to see it, but in a crawl space, you don't ever think about it unless you have it on a routine to just check it every few months.
In those instances where there is catastrophic damage or a flood, a pipe bursts and somebody's on vacation and the house gets flooded, what would you advise the homeowner doing immediately after recognizing what happened?
So it's always good to get a company that you trust in to give you advice. Sometimes homeowners will try to do everything themselves. A lot of times you just need an expert opinion to know things that you may not know.
Like they'll try to dry everything out themselves.
Right.
They'll try to play the part of the remediator.
Yeah. Exactly. But if they don't open up the walls and make sure that all of those areas are drying, then things back behind that they may not have even thought of can turn into bigger problems later with mold. A lot of times when homeowners are contacting us, they say, yeah, I treated everything with bleach and it grew back. For homeowners, any product that you see that says kills mold, is probably a better choice than bleach. Look for something that's specially designed to kill microbial growth. Bleach a lot of times will just wash the color away, and then a lot of times it'll come back even stronger after it dries.
Now, somebody out there realizes, hey, that's the guy I want to work with. How they go about getting in touch with you?
So, like we talked about a minute ago, Samantha's the brains of the operation. So the office line's the best one to call, because that'll go to her. I also have an emergency line. If it's 2 in the morning and you have a leak, we take care of emergency work. The emergency line that goes to me is 864-569-9378. The office line for more scheduling or regular issues is 864-569-9366. We also have a website, Foothills-carpetcare.com.
Hey Adam, great conversation. You provided some really good information for the viewer, and appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
So when you're thinking about the topic of mold, typically what comes to my mind at least is older houses. But you were the first family to live in the house, right?
Correct, yeah. When we moved in, it was brand new.
Give us a little bit of the backstory of how you ended up purchasing this particular home.
Sure. Well, eight and a half years ago, our family found ourselves in a little bit of a predicament because our home at the time was on the small side. The yard was very small, and we needed a larger home. We had started to adopt and foster kids, and our family was growing quite rapidly, really fast. And we currently have 8 kids, and at the time we were just looking for more space, and so this opportunity for this home with a nice acre lot in a really nice neighborhood came available, and we jumped on it, not really even thinking about
What's behind the walls.
What's behind the walls. Yeah, at the time we were fine with cheaper materials, cheaper finishes, because we knew that our kids, were young and they were going to abuse stuff.
Oh yeah.
And so it wasn't that big of a deal at the time.
And yet you found mold in it.
That's correct. Yep, that's right.
Tell us a little bit about that discovery.
Well,
that unpleasant discovery.
have you ever had a situation where your wife comes to you and says, "There's a problem in the house. I can smell it," and you, being the husband, says, "There's no problem in the house. There's nothing wrong." Well, come to find out, she was right and I was wrong. We had a couple of people come through the house to try to find the source, and they could pinpoint, small areas. We did a mold test, a dust test, ERMI test, and that provided evidence that we had it in the house. But it wasn't until we took one of the HVAC vents down from the ceiling and looked up in there that we discovered mold in the actual air ducts.
Now your home is on a slab.
Correct.
And when you think about mold problems, I know, at least I think, you have it under the house in the crawl space primarily. How does it get into a house that's on a slab?
With our home was not constructed correctly at the get-go. The HVAC system was not installed correctly. The ducts were not insulated properly. The ducts themselves are cheap. We have one unit versus for 2 floors versus 2 units for 2 floors. So all of that combined made an environment in the attic where condensation occurred, and over time it just grew.
And that's the key, the condensation, because mold can't grow without moisture.
Correct.
Right? So that condensation was coming into the vents, is that right?
Yep, because the attic was so warm. Again, the unit was running constantly, the lack of insulation on the actual ductwork, the cheapness of the ductwork, all of those things combined made just the right conditions for mold to grow.
A lot of people, when they think about a remodel, they often think about the exterior, how it appears, what they see on the outside. But what's built on the inside probably matters even more, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not only the cheapness of material, but it's the cheapness or the labor part, where things are just done quickly without thinking. There's a lack of craftsmanship involved in it, and that is what occurred at our house. The perfect environment for mold to start growing.
How are you approaching that problem?
We've had cleaners come you've heard of maybe duct cleaners who will come and clean your ducts. And they took a look at it and said, there's no way to clean this and get it right. So
I bet you hit the panic button at that point, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's not what you want to hear.
No.
So we're replacing everything. So the good thing about that is we're buying the right materials, and we've got an HVAC guy who we really trust and believe in, and he's doing a great job. So the craftsmanship part of that is also happening.
What are some general ways that mold can affect our health?
Lack of energy, breaking out in hives, not able to eat, not able to swallow. There's a lot of different symptoms, and it just depends on the person really as to what it would do and how it would affect you. There are people with immune issues that are they're allergic to different things, and so our daughter happens to be one of those. She has autoimmune issues. We've grown to kind of connect with some other people who've had mold allergies and who've had to move out of their home for different reasons or whatever, and so their symptoms are different even a little bit than our daughter's symptoms. So it just affects people differently.
Yeah.
And not everybody will respond, in the same way.
Once you guys vacated the house, and you've been out for how long?
It's been about 5 to 6 months now.
Okay. Have you seen general improvement in your daughter's health?
She's doing better. She's not quite all the way there yet, but she has been improving after we've removed her from the home.
If someone has symptoms and they want to investigate further if there's mold in their home, what's a good starting place to do that?
The best thing to do is just start looking for areas where there's elevated moisture levels. And in our case, the reason why I said there was no issue was because I couldn't find any spot in our home that there were elevated moisture levels. And mold really thrives in a condition where there's over 50% moisture. So to find that can be a little bit of a game trying to figure out where it's coming from. Eventually we found ours in the HVAC vents.
I think a cautionary tale in all of this is if you build cheaply, there are consequences.
Yep.
And there's a wide array of consequences. And we hear from this story, some of those consequences could be your health.
That's correct. Yeah.
If someone's looking at having a home built or remodeling their home on a massive level, what do they need to know about the materials before going into that? And, as you pointed out, the craftsmanship.
Pay attention, because there are a lot of people out there that will just try to do it the cheapest way possible. Was it built by somebody that you trust? Was it done by somebody you trust? Was the company who did it somebody who has a good reputation? Or was it someone who has a reputation for doing the kind of lower end or cheap type of things? I think that would be the best way to, and then get it inspected. If you're looking at getting or buying a home, have someone that you trust inspect it. Even a builder come by and just say, hey, would you come by and take a look at this for me?
If there is somebody out there that this information resonates with and they want to talk to you or they want to get in touch with Daniel Builders, how would you tell them to go about that?
Well, the easiest thing to do to get in touch with Daniel Builders would be actually to go to our website, danielbuilders.com, and click on the Getting Started tab. The other thing you can do is just give us a call, 864-506-5546, and we'd be more than happy to schedule a time to chat about anything that you have concerning your home.
Well, thank you for coming on and telling us a little bit about what is a sensitive topic. I mean, it's your family, it's their health, and yet you're willing to come on and give us this information that could be very valuable to someone who's thinking about having a home built or wanting to do a major remodel and wanting to be in a home for years to come.
Thank you.